Welcome to the deep dive.
Hey there.
Today, we're really digging into the upcoming grand strategy game, Europa Universalis 5, EU5.
Yeah.
Our goal here is to kind of unpack its development, see what we can learn. We're especially looking at what Paradox Tinto learned from, well, Imperator, Rome.
And crucially, how the players, the community, seem to be shaping this new game.
Exactly. We've got a great source for this, too, a recent piece from PC Gamer.
Right. It details this really unusual reveal strategy they used. Took almost a whole year.
Yeah, it's a fascinating look at how these big projects can adapt, especially when they, really listen to their audience. It tells you a lot.
It really does.
So forget your typical game announcement. No big sudden splash.
No, totally different. Starting way back February 2024, right?
Yeah, February 24, Paradox Tinto starts dropping these dev diaries, like breadcrumbs.
A lot of breadcrumbs. 62 of them, the article said.
62. Just hinting at mechanics, the direction, all for what was then called Project Caesar.
Which everyone kind of guessed was EU5 anyway.
Pretty much, and now it's confirmed. But they were showing their homework way before the official ta-da.
And you have to ask why, right? What's the thinking?
Well, the article points to Johan Andersson. He's the head of Paradox Tinto, big name in the EU series.
Right, the original director.
And he apparently really wanted to make this sequel driven, it seems, by the whole Imperator Rome experience.
Ah, Imperator. That's central to this whole story, isn't it?
Absolutely key, because Imperator, well, it wasn't a disaster at launch, was it? Critically, anyway.
No, not at all. The PC Gamer reviewer actually gave it a 92%, I think.
That's right, 92%. Praised its ambitions, some fresh ideas, and the initial sales were apparently pretty good, too.
Yeah, launched strong, but
the player reviews over time told a different story.
That happens sometimes. The initial shine wears off.
Exactly. The article mentions this feeling that it became a game of diminishing returns, didn't quite have the long-term hook of, say, Crusader Kings or the older EU games.
Right. It eventually clawed its way back to very positive on Steam reviews, which is impressive in itself.
True, they did put the work in.
But it never quite reached that same stratosphere of popularity,
Yeah.
that dedicated long-haul player base.
So a strong concept, good initial reception, but maybe missing some of that long-term depth or replayability.
That seems to be the lesson they took away, yeah. And it feeds directly into EU5.
Okay, so let's get into those lessons, the big takeaways from Imperator for Andersson and the team. The article highlights two main shifts.
Yeah, the first one is maybe the easiest to grasp. It's about moving away from less board game things, Anderson's term.
Less board game things. Okay, what does that mean in practice? Like mana points?
Exactly like mana points. Those abstract resources, monarch points, whatever you want to call them. Click a button, spend some points, something happens.
Right, which can sometimes feel a bit disconnected from actually running a country.
That's the criticism, yeah. Players felt it could be a bit gamey, maybe not reflecting the reality of managing a nation.
So what's the alternative in EU5 then? What are they leaning into instead?
It's all about more tangible stuff. Resources you can see and track, but the big focus.
People.
People, as in population.
Population, yeah. What's called POPs in the provinces, but also the big power groups, the estates.
The clergy, nobles, burghers, that sort of thing.
Right, and your armies, your advisors, your ministers, the whole human element.
Okay.
The article really stresses how dynamic and sometimes kind of unpredictable this human element is. It's your power base, but it also needs constant management.
So less abstract number pools, more. Managing the actual people and groups within your nation.
Kind of, yeah. Think less abstract mechanics, more direct consequences from what your population is doing or needs. A more grounded feel.
That sounds like a pretty fundamental shift, more intuitive maybe.
Hopefully. And that leads directly into the second big lesson from Imperator.
Which was?
Community. Listening to the community. Ah, right. The article really hammers this point home.
It does. Andersson is quoted saying the biggest lesson was involve the community more and listen more to the community. Explicitly.
And this wasn't just lip service, apparently. They really leaned into it for EU5 from the get-go.
Totally. They used quantitative surveys.
So, multiple choice, data gathering.
Yep. And qualitative interviews. Actually talking to players, understanding their deeper thoughts.
So, proper research, not just scrolling through forums.
Right. Really trying to figure out what the dedicated fans wanted from the next EU game.
And what did they want, did the article say?
Well, Andersson notes that the feedback actually lined up pretty well with his own ideas.
No, interesting. which were...
He wanted a deeper economical game with more peacetime activities.
Okay, so less focus purely on war and map painting, more on building up your nation internally.
Seems like it, yeah. More complex systems for when you're not at war, which, is a lot of the time in history.
Makes sense. And that brings us back to those dev diaries, doesn't it? That long reveal.
Exactly. It wasn't just marketing hype, although I'm sure that was part of it.
Anderson even joked about marketing getting nervous if you talk too early.
Yeah. But the main point of that slow burn reveal, that whole year of diaries,
Was feedback?
was constant feedback. It gave them this rolling window to show ideas and see how people reacted. Iterate on the fly.
And the article says they actually did change things based on that feedback quickly.
Yeah, it gives examples. Anderson would apparently float an idea in a diary, and then maybe a week or two later he'd post again saying, okay, based on your feedback, we've already tweaked this.
Wow, that's pretty responsive for game development on this scale.
It really is. It shows like a real commitment to letting player insights shape the game's core design.
Is there a specific example they mention of a change driven by the community?
Yes, a really good one.
Yeah.
The relationship between the pops, the people in provinces, and the estates, those big social groups.
Okay, pops and estates. How did that evolve?
So the initial idea was apparently quite rigid, almost one-to-one links, like 4 specific estates tied directly to 5 specific pop types.
Sounds a bit blocky.
Maybe, yeah. And the community feedback seemed to reflect that. So based on what they heard,
That's a change.
they shifted to a system with multiple adaptive estates.
Yeah.
More flexible, and a wider, more nuanced range of pop types too, laborers, soldiers, tribesmen, things like that.
Adaptive estates, so they can change or emerge based on the pops.
That seems to be the implication.
Yeah.
More fluid, more natural, as the article puts it, less like fixed categories, more like reflecting the messy reality of society.
Okay, that definitely sounds like it addresses both points, moving away from board game things and listening to the community.
Exactly. It creates a more organic system, hopefully.
So the picture emerging from the PC Gamer piece is EU5 is aiming to be this deep, uncompromising game, right? It has a strong vision.
Definitely. Anderson's vision seems clear.
But it's also being heavily shaped, actively refined by its core audience, these dedicated grand strategy fans.
Yeah, their fingerprints are already all over the core mechanics, even at this stage.
Right. So wrapping up our deep dive here, it really feels like 2 major lessons from Imperator echo through everything we're seeing with EU5's development and reveal.
For sure.
Yeah.
Lesson 1, move away from the abstract mana, focus on tangible things, especially people.
Make it less like a board game, more like managing a complex society.
And lesson 2, bring the community into the tent. Early, often, and actually listen.
And that listening part even dictated how they unveiled the game, that whole year-long dev diary process.
Precisely. Which leads to a kind of interesting final thought for you, the listener.
Go on.
We've seen how involving the end user, the player, so deeply and so early has really shaped this complex piece of software, this game.
Yeah.
So think bigger picture. How could this model this idea of co-creation and constant feedback loops with the people who will actually use the thing? How could that change how other complex systems or products are made? Outside of gaming entirely.
Like in designing anything complex, really. Engineering, policy, software.
Anything.
Yeah.
What are the benefits of bringing your audience, your users, right into the messy middle of creation? What are the challenges?
That's a really interesting question. Definitely something to chew on.